All right, welcome everybody to Blacksmith Podcast. You know what time it is? It's Saturday, and we are doing our financial topic. Dom DeMarco, Marco. Oh, it wasn't that one. All right, so look, the Blacksmith Podcast on everything, obviously, but we have a crazy topic to talk about, and we're locked and loaded on this subject. If you can see the screen right here. Obviously, we're on Discord, but this is about to go up on YouTube as soon as I'm done. If you can see my screen right here, the DOE, Department of Education, has just now, and I don't remember when this was. This was probably a week ago. When is this article from? The 24th. So last week. I thought it was last week. They have now declared this list, and I don't know if this is all of them, but every time I look this up, this is all I can find. They have now declared that these professions are no longer seen as professions. And it doesn't mean that they are not needed career fields. It just, it means a couple of things. So we're going to talk about what the implications for all of this is. And what they're talking about, not talking about, TUM apostrophe BOUT. Excuse me. I wasn't gonna do the show today because I've been in the bed pretty much all yesterday. My voice is kind of gravelly. I'm sniffling. I'm blowing my nose. I've went through, I don't know how many boxes of tissues, 4 or 5 in the last 2 days. So, but you know what? The show must go on. I did go to the gym today so I can get a workout, and we're here. We're going to do it. We must stay consistent. All right. So look, let's get it. So, graduate degrees. So these are no longer seen as professions. Nursing, physician's assistant, physical therapist, audiologists, architects, accountants, educators, social work. I'm going to tell you right now, whether you agree with this list or you don't agree with this list, whatever your reason for not agreeing or not, you are not the Department of Education and you have no control over this. But what you can control is what you do with this information, how you react to this information, in developing a plan of action. Let's say, for instance, you don't agree with this list because you're a social worker. What you could do is think, okay, I'm a social worker. Let's say I've been in the field for 10 years. So I'm not a novice. I'm not a journeyman. I would consider myself a master level social worker. Well, the DOE said it's no longer a profession. Does that mean I can't be professional in my career field? No, that's not what they're saying. Does that mean that they're going to get rid of the job title or the career field title? No. Typically, what the world considers job versus career is like, if you need any hard skill to do it, that's a profession or career. If you don't, like if you're unskilled labor, that's a job, right? Amazon. You go into Amazon, you're stocking shelves, you're pulling things off the shelves at fulfillment centers, you're packing it in a box or putting it on a conveyor belt. That's a job. The conveyor belt back in the factory days during our industrial revolution, which is one of the things I'm going to talk about, the paradigm shift. That was a job. You come out of high school, you go straight into the factory job. It's all on the job training. You don't need any kind of specialty. No, when we talk about hard skills, no degrees, no credentials, no certifications, no license, or it's not a trade, right? If you need any of those are career fields or professions, right? They're saying these are no longer that. So now these are technically just seen as a job, right? So they're not getting rid of the job title. You will have a job tomorrow. Well, You're still being employed, but it's Sunday. So most of these folks, I don't think, work on Sundays, but get what I'm saying. You will still have a job. They're not taking your job away. There are a couple implications of this, and we're going to talk about it. But before we get into that, the last thing I want to talk about is we are really seeing a paradigm shift. Open your eyes, folks. Have vision, right? I always talk about the five senses. I hope I can get them in one go. So you have sight, touch, taste, hearing, and feel, right? Did I say that? Touch, taste, hearing, sight, smell. All right. Sight is great. You can walk across the street without getting hit by a bus. You can drive to work without crashing. You can see, sorry, I'm telling you. You can see what you're doing on the computer, but vision is better because you don't just look at this microphone, HyperX. I'm not sponsored, by the way. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I use this every week. You don't just see this microphone on the shelf at Walmart where I got it. It's only like $20. It's a great microphone. You don't just see this microphone for what it is. You see it for what it could be. This has helped me record, I don't know, hundreds of videos at this point, and get hundreds or thousands of views, right? You got to look at this and see what it could be or what it could help you do, right? That's vision. And we're seeing a paradigm shift. So back when in the Industrial Revolution of America, let's look at 100 years ago, when they began manufacturing cars, or 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, steel plants, steel mills, whatever we were manufacturing, computer chips or whatever we were doing, right? It was more primitive technology. So yeah, there's that. But let's just deal with cars and let's deal with Detroit, the industrial manufacturing capital, or at least auto manufacturing capital of the world back then, right? You graduate high school, you go into a factory job, conveyor belt, pick this part up, put it over here, hit it with the drill, put these 3 screws in the hood, pass it on down. Do the same thing over and over and over. And then, we did that for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then they started whispering about this thing called robotics. And they were like, let's take 5 guys. We have Tim, John, Jake, Fred, Tyler. If I don't remember any of these, y'all chime in the chat. The one we're going to focus on is Tim, right? So these 5 guys, let's say it's 1965, the year my mom was born. And they start whispering about robotics. And they say, they're talking about training a robot to do our job. Tim says it. Now, I don't remember the names already. I think it was John, Jake, Tyler, and I already don't remember Frank. I don't know. Tyler. There we go. I said Tyler. No, yeah, you're right. All right. So, of course, you would know that one. That's funny. So 5 years before it hits, they talk about it, right? Okay. Chat, undefeated and dumb. So they talk about it in 1965, and they say in 1970, robotics will have replaced a third of the workforce in conveyor belt or factory jobs, right? So Tim is worried about it. The other 4, that can't happen. Do you see how strong we have to be? Man, what is this robot going to look like? Is it going to be a full-fledged person? They don't even know what it's going to look like. They just heard whispers about it, right? They heard it's going to do their job. And they're thinking the Jetsons, the robot. I don't know her name, but if you've ever seen the Jetsons, they have a maid that's a robot, and she vacuums. She does a lot of stuff. And so they're thinking that. And they're like, the Jetsons is a TV show. That's so futuristic. Flying cars. They fly from house to house. They live up in the sky on pedestals that come from the ground, which is kind of dangerous because where's my pedestal? Because if somebody run into it on the highway, Olympus will come tumbling down. But anyway, so get what I'm saying. That's 65. Now in 66, they start talking about it and they talk about what it's going to look like. It's just going to be an arm on a pedestal that has appendages that can swing, pick up, and whatever. So they say that's what it's going to look like. It won't be strong enough. It's not going to do it. Where are they going to get the power from? Will it be electronic? Well, how are they going to lift it? It's going to have hydraulics. Tim's still worried. 3 years to go, so 1967, Tim says, hey, guys, they've got this program for robotics that we can go into, and they learn how to program the robots. They learn how to fix them. They learn about the power supply. It's all about the program that's going to be coming. I'm thinking of looking into it, and they shame them. Man, that's stupid. You're gonna go into that, and it's going to be a waste of time. So now let's skip all the way to the end. 1970 hits. They walk on into the job, and here's the foreman right there in the front with a list saying, hey, guys, all right, this is a hard topic. I know the holidays are coming up, but, no, I'm skipping a part. So 1969, we got to do this one first. We got to do this one first. Give me a second. 1968. Let's go with 68. Got to do this one. They walk in and they're like, hey, what's that room down there? They added something onto the factory or they blocked it off. That wasn't there yesterday. Oh, yeah. So that's going to be where the robot's working. 6 months later, they walk in and there's the arm picking stuff up, putting it down. There's another arm screwing stuff in, and it's getting it wrong. They can look through the window and say, oh, man, that's crazy. They getting it wrong. But there's somebody in there tweaking it and unscrewing things or tightening bolts and stuff. 1969, there's even more of them in there. And then 1970 hits. And here they walk in, and the foreman is sitting there with a clipboard. This looked more like a clipboard with some names on it. And he's like, hey, look, while I got you all here before you start working, I know the holidays are coming up. It's a hard topic to broach. Believe me, I love all you guys. If it was up to me, I wouldn't have to do this. But the company is making layoffs. Robotics, they're here. So if I call your name, you got a month, and I know it's October, but you're gonna be laid off. So he calls out, Jake, Tyler, what's the other one? John, the four guys, right? And then he calls out some more, right? And then they're like, I didn't hear Tim's name. Matter of fact, where is Tim? Where's Tim at? And they go walking, and they're like, dang, are you kidding me, man? It's going to be the holidays. We're going to get laid off, man. I make all this money per hour. What are we going to do? And blah, blah. Look, man, I know I can't control it. I'm just a foreman. I'm just telling you. I'm just relaying the news. I wish I didn't have to do it. And then they look through that window, and there's Tim programming the robots. And they say, hey, you didn't call Tim's name. Oh, yeah, Tim went in the robotics program. So, he's not getting laid off. In fact, Tim's getting promoted. He's going to be a manager of all the robotics workers because he went to the school. He got that hard skill. He got the certification in robotics. And now he's going to be the manager of all the guys in the robotics program when they need tweaking, maintenance, anything like that, coordinating with the manufacturer for the robots, all of that. Well, look, that was a long way of saying, I know it was, this is the same paradigm shift that we are seeing today. Factory work to robotics. Now we have robotics to tech to AI. We're noticing that shift. And that is the same paradigm shift from factory in physical labor to us doing everything on computers and tech driven to AI, automated processes. That's all automated processes. And remember, the employee is the most expensive part of a business. You have their salary. Let's say you pay them $20 an hour. That's 41,600, I believe. Y'all check me. I should use 100 grand. But anyway, they make 100 grand a year. There's a 15.3% payroll tax on that. So now you're not paying them period 100 grand. You're doing 115,300. There's their benefit package, whether they buy one or not, and you have to have health care. So guess what? Pharmaceutical company tied your hands with this whole you have to have health care. So either you're going to get Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, which people say ain't so affordable, or you're going to get the package through your company, but they paid for it whether you get it or not. So you already paid for that. Now, if they get hurt, workers' comp. If you have to lay them off if it's fired for cause, you don't pay this. But if they're laid off because you need to cut costs, there's unemployment. The business pays that. There's more reasons, but there's 5 reasons why the employee could easily be replaced by AI because it's going to save companies a ton of money. Now, again, we're looking at these professions, and I'm going to open the floor up for anybody who wants to weigh in on this, what you may have seen, the reasoning behind it, the implications thereof, and let's just have some dialogue about this. Floor is yours, anybody. Oh, let me read this chat because somebody posted something. All right, so here we go. Across all social workers nationwide, the median annual salary is $61,330 per year. For those with a master's degree, a typical salary is $63 grand per year. Big jump there, right? All that education and all that extra money. And I wonder if I might be getting ahead of myself, but I wonder how much more you spend for the master's degree for a $2,000 pay jump. Not even. See, that's crazy. Salaries can vary by specialization, child, family, and school. Social workers, median around $58,570 a year. Healthcare social workers, 68 grand. Mental, 60 grand. Substance abuse. Okay, so that makes sense, right? And see, I will tell you this. Yeah, companies are actively doing that right now, especially in tech. I'm guessing you're talking about the layoffs. And yes, they are doing that right now. If you have not seen news of companies doing huge layoffs, wasn't Google one of them? I think Google was one of them. But anyway, look, I'm going to tell you, you better get your kids using ChatGPT. One of my brothers, he's on here. He told me something fantastic. Now, he is an AI, I would say journeyman, almost to the master level. And he told me something about 2 different AIs, right? ChatGPT, which is OpenAI's baby. And I think they are also the one that has Sora. And then what's the other one? Genesis? No, what's it called? Gemini. He said the biggest difference between Gemini, even though he thinks Gemini, allegedly, I don't want no lawsuits, but his opinion, and maybe it's a fact, he said the biggest difference between Gemini and ChatGPT, you can give ChatGPT and Gemini 5 different commands. Design a character for my anime. I want him to be 5'10". I want him to be dark of skin. I want him to be muscular. I want his eyebrows to be very far apart to where he looks weird. And then you can give Gemini the same thing. And then guess what? ChatGPT can learn. And he said, here's the difference. ChatGPT will use all 5 prompts on the same project, so it delivers a more accurate picture. Gemini can't learn, so it will only use the last prompt. So if you said his eyebrows need to be far apart to where it looks weird, you're not going to get a photo anywhere close to what you're looking for, because this one used ChatGPT used all 5 prompts. Gemini just used the last one you gave it. So what you would have to do with Gemini is when you deliver a prompt and it creates something, copy that one, paste it, and then deliver the second one. And every single thing you've done, you have to copy and paste it. And so you can still get the same result, I guess. Whereas this one just remembers the 5 prompts and you can just deliver the last one. You have to put all 5 into one to get the same result with this one. And see, that's the kind of stuff that you need to know about AI in order to not get left behind. Let's see. Amazon was the company. Yes. And I have a buddy at the gym. I talked to him today. He works for HP, and he talked about them doing layoffs 2 days ago. He's in sales. He said they're laying off a lot of their sales folks, but Amazon was the company I was talking about. So they laid off 14,000 corporate employees. However, they're also, I think the number was for the next 3 years or 2 years, they're not hiring 108 or 180 new employees because they're utilizing AI, and they're going to cover everything everything a person would do, automated processes. And remember, Amazon has those robots, right, that are picking things up off the shelf, turning around and putting them on a conveyor belt. And my brother, he said on the first floor of his building, that's where those robots are. Didn't I just mention robotics and the paradigm shift from the 50s and 70s? I just mentioned that, right? They're already on the first floor of his building. And they already asked people to go into robotics, repairing them, tweaking them, programming them. I'm telling you, it's happening right in front of our faces. And if you're not paying attention and using your vision, look, businesses have a 20-year head start on us. You will not outsmart them. You will not outpace them. You cannot, all you can do is look at where the world is going and fall in line with where the world is going. And if you fall in line first, now you're at the front of the pack. When all these other people fall in behind you, look, you're in front, right? So think about it like that. Microsoft laid off people. Meta laid off people. Intel laid off people. Aren't these big companies? I'm telling you, you guys better pay attention. Did you want to talk on that?
Yeah, I wanted to say a couple things because one of the reasons why they do the layoffs in the first place, anytime you can make technology better, as you probably already pointed out, I think you did hit on it pretty big. They have to pay for the cost of you being an employee. That's between damages that happen, compensation, maternity leave, or parental leave, vacation. They have to pay for that. Insurance packages.
Talk about it.
Payroll tax.
Yep.
There are so many freaking costs that they have to pay just to get an employee. And then if you're in an industry with high turnover where people are quitting and getting fired a lot, then now they have to account for that cost too. And that's nothing to do with the cost to even operate the business, risks that can happen. So if I can create a perfect machine that only messes up or hiccups once in a blue moon, way less than a human, it can complete this task to proficiency, then the only thing I need now is someone to fix it when it messes up. I don't need 10 workers. I might need 2. And those 2 just need to be able to fix that machine. Just like self-checkout. They've been rolling that out left and right and left and right. I don't need 10 employees anymore for checkout because people aren't going to leave because of longer wait line. Seen that. Walk into a local Walmart if you want to. there will be a long line of people waiting to use self-checkout. And the only time that those employees are late is if the machine flags that it thinks you did something suspicious or that
or
it doesn't
or
like.
or if
And then
it's
it'll call an attendant.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Let me
Yep.
speak on that one really quickly. I hate when people say real quick. That's not grammatically correct. Um okay, you talked about some of the costs with employees. Think about it. Butts and seats, they're also utilizing your utilities. What is this? This is a desk lamp, right? That's electricity, right? They also have to use the toilet. That's sewage. They also go to the water fountain or the water jug. You have to pay for that. That's water. Um, if you are a company that has break rooms, and you buy sodas and certain snacks and you deliver it to them for free, you also pay for that. Um, I mean, even if you give them market share, right? You give them, free coffee in the break rooms and stuff like that. That's good. That came from the chat. So those are a lot of other things that people don't take into account. Also, given what you said, now I can speak on this one for sure. I worked in my first job was part-time cashier. I was a part-time cashier and cart collector on Sundays. Um, at Pathmark. If you're not from the Northeast, you won't know what I'm talking about. The word path and not and mark, like the name Mark. Um, Pathmark. I was a part-time in cashier for 2 years. Pretty much August of 2024. I had just graduated at 18, and I stopped working there right before I turned 20. So like early June of 2006. So 2004 to 2006. And I'm going to tell you, in 2006, they rolled out like 2 to 4 self checkouts. They took one of the so aisles 1 through 5 were the short aisles where a cashier, the belts were shorter. You have less items. Of course, the first one was the express lane, 15 or less or whatever. And then you had the bag um, rotating thing where you put a couple items in, rotate to the next one, put a couple items in. That was 1 through 5. Now, they had 6 through 11. They were the long belts. So that's the people who are grocery shopping. You know what I'm saying? So they took like 6 and 7 out and they put auto checkouts or self checkouts there. And he's right. You walk into any Walmart, you walk into any Home Depot, you walk into any Aldi's, self checkout. They replace cashier. This is unskilled labor. Do we really need people to do it? Now, you can argue morality and everybody needs a job. And I would say you're vastly correct. But you have to understand businesses are not worried about if you have a job or not. They're worried about delivering, especially if they're a public company. They're worried about delivering the amount of market share and equity in each share to their customers. And so become skilled labor. I talk about this all the time. Do not get priced out of the market. You see them bringing in automated or self checkouts. What does that mean for you? If they brought in 4 self checkouts and they were clunky, they didn't work well at first, so the supervisors were over there all the time, and then they had to assign a supervisor just for it. But guess what? You don't see supervisors standing by them anymore, except in like Home Depot you do. Well, I think Walmart has one. I think Home Depot, you'll see one, just in case it starts flashing and they need somebody. But it's not because it doesn't work right. It's just because, like he said, if you need anything, they can get there fast, right? They're already over there. So I'm just saying, y'all are exactly right. If you have more to say, go ahead, keep going. I just wanted to. I'm telling you, I saw it 20 years ago. That was 20 years ago. And then my buddy who works for HP, his name's Alex, he said that the first AI they ever used was in cars where, and if cars are very technologically evolved now. So like there's a setting with your volume for music, for calls, all of that, where it will turn up your music the faster you go because people like driving with the windows down, right? So with all the wind resistance, you need the sound in the car to be higher. And as you go slower, it will automatically bring the sound down. So it adjusts to your speed. That was the first AI. I would argue self-checkouts came next in grocery stores and the banking sector. When I joined the Navy, welcome to Navy Fed of whatever. Option one. Here's the list of all of our options. Option one, that's voice AI. That's what SoundHound AI does for businesses, right? That has been around for 2 decades now. You're not going to outsmart these people. The only way you're going to not be priced out or left behind is you got to see where they're going and get there before the market gets there, before the rest of the people, before everybody opens their eyes. But anybody else that want to speak on these career paths or anything like that, you could do that, or I'll jump to the next point about them.
So I wanted to jump in a little bit more. It is important that we understand. Don't put your feelings into it. Just understand that if you want a career in this career field, you're going to have to be what that company needs. And a lot of people show up to a job just to do their job and go home. But then you have those people that some people say are manager or whatever happens. But sometimes, and a lot of times, those people are asking management what management needs for the next step of that company's development. And that's why pioneer companies and startups, they need people who are pioneers. They need people who are willing to go that next step to develop the company into what it wants to be in the next 5 years. And if you put that work in, you're more than likely going to be a grassroots member that stays within that company. So people should really consider that instead of saying, I don't get paid enough to do this. And some folks just go to a job and then go home, hop on the game or watch your favorite show or tune out, do whatever you do. But if you're not spending at least 30 minutes a day improving yourself, you're hoping for that job to value you more at a job that you're not upgrading your skill set to be more of an asset to the company. You want to stay the same, but want to be valued. That doesn't make any sense. So over time, sure, your wages will go up, but will they keep inflation? If not, you're actually losing money. And some people, what they'll do is they'll gain experience through the years, and then they'll switch to another job that starts them out with more money. But again, one of the ways you can bypass that, stay with the same company and the loyalty. I know that can be a bit of a finicky topic now because they're laying people off that, a lot of folks deserve it. So people aren't loyal to companies as much as they used to be. But one of the ways you can bypass that stagnant water is by doing that extra step. Go to your management team and just be like, hey, I'm sure that I'm doing a fine job on the job or behind the scenes, but what kind of skills are y'all looking for us to develop to reach that next plateau? Are we opening up the AI division? Are we opening up this? Are we opening that? What can I do to get ahead of that curve to be ready when you need something? Managers will actually oftentimes like that, and they'll keep an eye on you from then on and monitor your progress and ask you. So if you're going to ask that question, make sure you actually do. But that would be my advice to anyone who's perhaps upset that the market's moving the way it is. Instead of being upset at it, understand why. If they're not progressing, they're going to go out of business and you lose your job. So now they need people to step up and step in that place so that you can be ready for that step and you'll be one of the ones to benefit from it. So that'd be my advisory for anybody struggling with this new reality that's starting to set in the timeline. Not to quote The Flash.
So And chat, I don't know if anybody looked up reasons why they did this, but we'll go down some of these articles and I'm sure we'll see it. But here's something that let's think. Let's just take these on the screen. Let's think of some things that people do not consider before they go into the field. Number one, how much in student loans they're going to need to take out. Like, chat already posted, like, for social work, the average salaries, right? That's the second thing they don't look up, right? But if you don't look up the amount of loans, you should look up that first. First, you need to know what level degree you can operate in the field with. And then you need to look up the amount of loans, the amount of student loans or student debt, because most people aren't coming out of college with a full ride or partial, right? So you need to look up the amount of student loans that on average you would have to take out, because I'm going to tell you right there, you look up those two things, the amount the career earns or the level of degree, the amount of student loans, and the third I'll put in there is how much the career path actually earns on average, the career field. Those three things right there is something you should consider to say yay or nay to any degree program. Like teachers, can you operate in your state? Here's another thing. Where do you want to live after you graduate college? Because maybe a teacher can earn 80, 100, 120,000 in New York. But if you don't want to live there and you want to live in South Carolina, maybe on average they're only earning 37,000. Well, yeah, the cost of living is cheaper. But when you say cost of living is cheaper, you know what most people do? They just say the cost of living is cheaper in the South. So Texas, east to Florida, Virginia, down to Florida. And that's what they do. They just pack up and move their family. They didn't research the average cost of gas to see what kind of car they have. Well, I have a V8 or I have a V6. Let's say I work within 50 miles of home on average. How much would I pay for gasoline every week, every month, right? They don't build a budget and a spending plan, right? The average teacher earns this much, and that average teacher has been on the job at least 10 years. Well, I'm going to be new. What's the starting salary for somebody in South Carolina for a teacher, right? They can operate with a bachelor's degree. Great. I have a bachelor's degree. But you should already know if it's only 24,000 starting salary in South Carolina, and if it's just you, what's the average rent? Where you gonna stay? Are you gonna be renting a room? Can you afford an apartment? What's food gonna cost you? Most people don't look this stuff up ahead of time, and this is the problem. So this is why you see people in tears on social media. Chat, I'm gonna get to you in just a second. I see all of it, and I'm gonna read it. This is the problem. I remember, so I'm still active duty, but back in 2016, I was a leading petty officer of a division, the Command Services Department. So it was a department. And I had junior sailors. I was the supervisor, basically, for everybody who's not military. And I was leading that. And one of my mentors, he was a friend of mine at my first duty station. And he became a mentor. He actually just retired. So salute to you, good sir. Thank you for your service. But he hit me up out of the blue and was like, hey, man, where you at now? What are you doing there? What did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Did you do that? And there was this one thing that I hadn't done. And he was like, why do you want to make chief? So from E6, first class, E7 is chief petty officer, right? And that's the biggest jump on the enlisted side from E6 to E7, or from first class to chief. And I was like, of course. And he was like, don't say of course when you haven't done this. I mean, this is one of the things they look for. And I was like, they being the selection board, right? So all of your annual evaluations and anything you want the board to see every year, you submit it to them with your name and social on it, and they'll review it and they give you a score, and that's how they rack and stack via your scores. That's how they select. So let's say 100 people made board, and they have 20 quotas based on your score. Those are the top 20 of who they're selecting. So anyway, I was like, hey, man, I didn't know. Nobody's telling me this stuff. He's saying it ain't nobody's job to tell you. It's your job to find this stuff out if you want to make cheap. You need to go research what you need to do to get the advancement that you want. And that stuck with me. I never forgot that. That was 9 years ago, and I still remember that. And it's the same thing here. I tell you what people don't look up. Like I said, those three things: what the career earns, the amount of student loan debt they're going to need, the level of degree they need before they operate in a career field. I'd say, if anything, that's one thing they will look up, because to be a lawyer, you have to get an undergraduate, do well enough to get accepted to a law school, go to a law school and get your JD. You know that for a PhD. All of that kind of stuff. But for teachers, for social work, all of that kind of stuff, for the state they want to be in, there may be different requirements. You may need a master's, not a bachelor's, and you done moved to the state already. So now you can't even operate with that level of degree, and you just move your family. That's your fault. You should have looked that up ahead of time. Upward mobility. I keep putting the same fingers out. I don't know which number I'm on. Upward mobility in that career field. They don't look that up either. So upward mobility doesn't just mean different job title. It also means higher salary. It also a different sects that you could move into. So IT has so many different credentials or certifications. It's crazy. So even in the Navy, as an IT, every IT doesn't do the same job. Just because they're in IT doesn't mean you can just ask them about computers and they'll know. Excuse me. You have to know what ITs work in ADP, Automated Data Processing Center. Those are your computer guys, your network guys. So if your computer's not working, your desktop, your laptop, internet's not working, those are the guys you call. But if it's frequencies, that's radio. There are ITs that work on radio and frequencies and stuff, and that's their thing. There are ones that work on radars. They have so many specialties that it's not all encompassing. So that makes that, you need to look that up too, because the more different arenas it has, or SECTS, sects of that career field, the more upward mobility and stuff you may actually have. And you can look up average salary of each one of those, right? You can start in the lower one, but then get credentialed in the other ones or certified in the other ones and move on in. But you need to look that up. Also, technological advances in that field, right? So what tech-wise, so AI would be a part of this. When you talk about AI, what advances in AI, because that's the new kid on the block, what advances in AI have there been? And are you being close to being replaced? Or what aspect of your job is being replaced? What can you do if that's being replaced and you're only there for 3 reasons? They just took 33% of your functionality at the job. Or so how do you replace that so you don't get replaced? You need to look that up before you go into a career field. Let's see what the chat talking about. Not talking about TU. No, y'all already know. All right, here we go. Yeah, so I was saying morality on this one. You could say everybody needs a job. And he says, yeah, but everybody doesn't need a job, waving at someone. So Walmart greeters, they're not needed. No one cares, right? Before it's too long, they're going to have somebody on the screen, a pre-recorded thing that when you walk into those little swing arms, it's going to be, welcome to Walmart. It's going to be an AI person on there where you will find the lowest prices on blah, blah, blah. And goodbye, 70-year-old guy who, didn't find something after he retired from whatever job or still needs to work for a living. Well, I guess you better make your back strong again. You can't. You had back surgery. I'm not even being funny. Like, this is people's reality, and they're going to walk into work one day, and this is going to be it. So what are you going to, and listen, if you have children, or if you plan on having children, hold on, look at me. If you have children or you plan on having children, you better think, if it's this bad for you, how much worse is it going to be for your kids? If you're not making them utilize AI right now, or at least showing it to them, what they can do with it, right? They're building businesses from scratch from utilizing AI because they are running processes in what is really a business. They're running processes and delivering a product. Do y'all know what the most valuable commodity nowadays is? It's not money, it's information. I could Google it, but there's an article where a couple years ago, it may have been this year, but a couple years ago, McDonald's was offering you like a free cheeseburger if you signed up and told them your name, your address, an email or something, and maybe one or two other things. Why'd they do that? What does the cheeseburger really cost? Because McDonald's has been in the news since I was a kid with scandals about they're not selling you real food. Their fries have not been molding or turning into compost since I was little. You find a fry under your seat 2 years later, it's stale, but there's no mold on it. I haven't eaten McDonald's since August of 13. Can't do it. Listen, man, being health conscious is a part of it, but the reason I bring McDonald's up is because that cheeseburger probably only costs like 20 cents to make. Let's be real. And they're charging you $2 for it. So them giving away a cheeseburger, if they gave away 1 million or 1,000 cheeseburgers, well, 100 or 10 would be $2. 100 would be $20. 1,000 would be $200 worth of cheeseburgers given away. Do you think McDonald's could take a hit like that? Of course they could. They could take a hit of 1 million cheeseburgers given away because they make a lot of their money in real estate. But I just said that to show you the information was more valuable than one of the products that they actually serve you. Information is the most valuable commodity. This is exactly why what is an algorithm? That's AI, right? Facebook runs algorithms. You click on a video or a post, it'll show you 10 more like it because you clicked it. You must like it. YouTube, when they had Reels, IG, they all use algorithms. That's all AI. It's called targeted marketing. Alex and I had this conversation 2 years ago at the gym, and he said it does work because people are stupid. They don't realize they're being targeted with the marketing. Now, some people might be like, well, I like that. I clicked it. It's showing me more of what I like. Whereas others would be like, don't try to guess what I like. I'll look up what I like. Who's wrong? The answer is yes. They're both wrong. They're both right. You know what I mean? They're not both wrong. The answer is no. Neither one of them is wrong, right? But just think about that, right? Let me go back. I just wanted y'all to look in my beady eyes when I said it about the one thing I was talking about, all right? Now, let's get back to the chat. So for a master's degree in social work, all right, so I'm going to leave this on the screen. This is a lot of info, but I appreciate you running through this. But this is one I will talk about. Teachers, educators is on that list, right? It says the median annual wage for pre-K to 12, grade 12 teachers in the U.S. is about $63,000 in 2024. And I wonder, so they're saying for 24 to 25, it's going to be around 72. And we know teachers are very, very low paid. And that says median. So for median salary, you have to think they're taking the most junior 22 or 23-year-old that just came out of school with a bachelor's degree, and they're probably teaching early education, TK, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade to second, right? All the way up to the most senior level, 12th grade, right? And they've been in education 30, 40 years, right? So you're averaging all of those. So let's not get it twisted. There are people in the $120,000 category, and there are people probably still in the 20s, 20K something in there. So remember, we're talking median. They're meeting in the middle. So that should scare you if you are a novice coming out of school, because what is the starting salary? And what's the average starting salary in your state? That's what you should think about. And how much student loans did you take out? Because you're going to have to factor in your housing costs is supposed to be about 30% of what you make, right? And this is a good budget, right? That's rent, that's mortgage. If you're living home with your parents, which I won't lie to you, most people in New York were doing that till they about 30 years old, till they get married. High price states, they do that kind of stuff, right? And parents do it because they want to give their children the best start possible. But it's a good idea unless you're not teaching your children financial literacy, which, here's the thing. We teach kids good manners, proper etiquette, all that stuff when they're little, but we don't teach them about finances. Look at my beady eyes. We don't teach them about finances until they're like 30, until they're like 21, when they've already had a couple jobs and we want them to stop spending all their money. Why didn't you teach them about financial literacy and what to do with money before they started earning it? You know, I had a conversation with my kids. Only 4 of the 6 were here the other night. So the 12-year-old, 9-year-old, 6 and 5-year-old, they were all sitting in the living room. And the 12-year-old asked about something, I can't remember, and it spawned a conversation. And I was talking about, she asked about college and why should she go to college. And it spawned this whole conversation about finances too. And I was talking about, mistakes that parents make. Watch this. And if this is you, don't be mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm allergic to being shot. I just start shaking and hemorrhaging out of wherever I got shot and foaming at the mouth. So I'm allergic to being shot, but I'm going to tell you something. If every time I'm going to drop kick you, and that's the sound it's going to make. So look, if every time you put money in their hands, they're spending it, you're the problem. You're going to give your child the middle class mindset. Watch this. From the time they're born to the time they're 18, they probably go to that ice cream truck at least 50 times. You probably go to the store with them at least 100 times where they ask you to buy them a candy bar or give them $1 or $5, $20 to go to the mall, at least 100 times during their childhood to buy something, right? Think about that. You gave them money. They used the money to buy something. Where did you ever show them to take that dollar and make it into 2? So don't expect them to know when they're 21. Don't expect them to know when they're 30. Even worse, don't expect them to care about that because you never showed them. Show them your 401k. Show them how 10% of your money is paying you first. Show them how 5% of your money is going into high yield savings, acorns or something like that. Don't just put it into 0.25% earnings per year. That is not beating inflation. All right. So you show them the stock market portfolio and why you invest in equities. Tell them what an equity is. Tell them what an annuity is. And guess what? If you don't know that, welcome to the Blacksmith Podcast, where we forge people's financial literacy. Nice, huh? All right, let's get to the chat. All right, so thank you for all of this. Y'all see this? When it's on YouTube, you go ahead and pause this here and you run up and down this. He put a lot of information in here, but I just really wanted to talk to about the K through 12 because I'm going to tell you something. Oh, no, I found something else. Look, I know there's a lot of, I shouldn't say that. One of my brothers is on here and he'll say that's suspect. Hold on. There's a lot of information here. Y'all probably don't know what I was going to say, but don't worry about it. So he put tuition, $78,000 a year pretty much, right? So if you multiply that, where's my calculator? Oh, no, don't go full screen on me now. Hold it now. Don't steal the show. Let's go 78K times 4 years. Look at that. $312,000. And who is that for? Social work? And if you look, what was the average salary? Like 60 grand. How are you paying that? If you paid every single penny of your salary, which you won't because you can't, that's salary. So that's pre-tax. So post-tax, you're only bringing home like 40 something in a high price state, a low cost state, 50 something, right? If you paid every penny to that, you'd still six point whatever years later, you'd have it paid off. That's crazy. Think about that. That's a house right there. The average home right now, if you Google it, 416 to 520. How you purchasing a house? How you gonna do that? So when they say these things, I know we went way into the details of this, but these are conversations that need to be had. We'll probably talk about this again, and this show is going to run long. It already has. We're at 56 minutes. Don't even worry about it. We're going to go through the chat. We're going to open up the mic. We're going to let people talk about it. But the reasons why is what I really want to get into. And one of the reasons why the Department of Education, so chat, if you're looking any of that stuff up, the reasons why they did this is what I really want to talk about, because one of the reasons I heard about, and we can bring this up, women are saying that they're targeting them. And I heard all kind of different reasons. Oh, well, these are women dominated fields. I don't know why that would matter. But they're saying that they're targeting them. How? Because honestly, I could see how social work would be on there, but somebody would disagree with me. Social work is just on the job training. Educators, I actually don't agree with. You do need to go to college in order to be a teacher. That ain't on the job training. We actually need you to be smart. Accountants, I really don't really agree with accountants, but I think, yeah, I don't agree with accountants. Architects, see, accountants with credentials and certifications, I think you could get architect and accountants. Right? Physical therapist, I think you need to go to school for that because you need to learn there's 206 bones in the body. I don't know if you could see with physical therapists, you could probably go to a tech school. Like I went to Wilson Tech as a senior in high school, and I got a 1-year certification in advertising art, which is like graphic design junior. Right? I think some of these could be just done with a tech school. Nursing, I don't really agree with nursing, but then they do have specialty schools for nursing. So, but it's on here. That's what I'm getting at. Whether you agree with it or not, it's on here. So what are you going to do? All right, let's get to this. You also need to find a mentor sometimes with people who also learn the easy or hard way. You want to learn from them without repeating the hard way. Yeah, you want a mentor because they'll teach you to avoid all the pitfalls they hit. Market saturation is important for availability and scalability. That's also true, right? Market saturation. Yep, almost every major social media or website has AI integrated in it. There's the AI guy right there. And of course, he would weigh in on that. Twitter has Grok. I used to think they were saying Gronk, like Gronkowski, the tight end for the Patriots. Well, he retired now. But Facebook has Meta AI. Instagram uses Meta. WhatsApp uses Meta. Guess what? They're all owned by Meta, if you didn't know that. Google AI is Gemini. And then Google is Chat GPT, right? Right? Is it good? No, you just said Google. Microsoft, I'm thinking, because they own a good portion of OpenAI. It's not theirs, it's OpenAI. OpenAI, um, OpenAI is actually a private company right now, so they're pre-IPO. But when they're going IPO, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm buying it. They can dump all their shares with OpenAI. I don't think OpenAI is a now this is professional and unlicensed. I don't think OpenAI is a company that is going to IPO and then drop off the face of the earth. I think OpenAI, because people are chomping at the bit to get to it, I think that one's going to go up and keep running. And if you look on Robinhood, if you put IPOs, you can see the ones that have IPO'd. Some of those companies are up 2, 3, 100% from when they IPO'd, and they kept going. You said it used to aggravate me when parents would say, "I don't know where they got that from," and they're literally the source of what. Oh, when he was talking about when I was talking about how they don't save their money and invest their money. Well, they didn't get that from you, so they're not doing it. The Bible, you can say what you want. It's been around longer than 2,000 years. It's the best selling book of all time, the highest selling book of all time, the most selling book of all time, whether you believe it or not. It says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And that's in Proverbs, the book of wisdom, which Solomon wrote. And you can say what you want to. I'm going to tell you right now, if you look around the world, 80% of people are doing the things they were taught when they were children. And they're not doing the things they weren't taught as children. It's just that simple. Anyway, let me see. You said they were Copilot at first, Microsoft. Okay, fair enough. And they still have Copilot, and Copilot's cool. Did anybody find the reason why DOE said these? One of the reasons I found was that the average salary and what you take out in student loans is not adequate enough to pay back these student loans. And they would know that because they would track, they have by now, you've tracked the statistics for 40, 50, 30 years with some of these. Social work is probably one of the newer kids on the block where you needed a degree for, because I think it's one of the newer ones when you look at this list. All of the rest of these have been around. Audiologists, I agree with as well. All you need to do is take a class, take a couple specific courses to audiologists, and there you go. You got something on this?
No, I was going to ask what an audiologist is.
Audiologist is one who sits in a soundproof room and they put the headset on, they play the beeps for you, and you push the button when you hear the sound. So they check people's hearing. They measure how well your decibels, how well you can hear or not. I don't think you need college for that. I don't know. Would y'all agree? Let's do this. Let's run through the list. I want everybody to chime in. Who agrees that nursing should be on the list? Let's start there.
I feel like nursing, you should need a degree for it. Because isn't nursing like a step below doctors, correct?
Well, see, now it depends on what kind of nurse you are. Sometimes they have nurses delivering food to patients. Sometimes they have nurses working the desk. And that just may be an aspect of what a nurse does, but they could come in and fluff somebody's pillow. They could be a phlebotomist and draw blood, right? They could, which phlebotomy is a certification. You don't need a degree for phlebotomy, right? But it depends on what they are a step below doctors, but if you're an RN or physician's assistant, you are right there at like almost a doctor level. Go ahead. You said what?
I think for a lot of nursing programs, there should be a degree based because there's a lot doing something such as fluffing a pillow. You need to know angles you can lift that patient at to be able to carefully lift them up so that you're not hurting the patient. So yes, I think it requires attention to detail that you can only really get from some type of accredited school or trade program. I do think that's important.
Yeah, the medical sector in general, I think, should need degrees. I mean, there's 206 bones in the body. Think of all the different pressure points you have. think of all of the different, what makes the body tick. The body is a very complex thing, right? They need to learn stuff like biology, right? When they talk about hemoglobin being the protein in the blood that makes the blood red, you need to know about that because hemoglobin levels could be low in somebody. And who thinks about that? Platelets, your red blood cells, bone marrow, where they are created. All that stuff, you need to go to
Hey,
college. I don't agree with nursing
I,
being on there.
I'd make people mad at that. I'd add a step to it that they should be well versed in stopping just pill format of things and saying, hey, what is the active ingredient? Can that be found in nature? Not everything needs to be packaged as pill.
Well, that's a different conversation. Now you're fighting the pharmaceutical company, the
Right.
pharmaceutical sector, and they have enough money
But
to
I
make
think
all of
that's
us
important.
disappear.
Yeah. But I
You
think
know what I'm
that's
talking about?
important when it comes to that sector to be like, hey, that this is necessary, but this is not. So I agree with what you're, but I'll say it's important that people know that doctors and nurses are trained. Hey, this is the active ingredient of this. What is the reason why we package it? Is it because it before it digests, it's got to make it through here, here, and here, and absorb too early, or you know what I mean? And it may be in the
But
seem like most
again, I
modern
think
doctors just push, huh?
I think you're fighting a different. You're talking about something completely different. That's a different conversation. You're talking about
Uh,
holistic care or herbal versus pill. Like
well,
if we're
the
talking about
reason why
traditional nurses and doctors, they use pills, right? So that's a different conversation. We're just saying, should nursing and doctors be on the list? Pharmacy is different, but I do think nurses need to be, because the primary is pills. Nurses need to know symptoms and the different medicines that treat it, so they can go get it and give it to them. Obviously, they run it by the doctor, but I think that's a
well, if
bit
you're
of
an
different.
RN, you can actually prescribe, and that's what I'm saying is I think that's important because if we're gonna regulate these programs, I think we should have it on the list, and I think that's why part of why it's necessary because we need to reformat. I think that they're one of the goals they're getting at is to try to restructure it, but I don't know that they're going about it to say it's necessary, and that should be part of the necessary curriculum to teach in it. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It's kind of a sidebar to it, but that's why I added it in there.
Can somebody look up why the DOE actually made these changes? Um, because one of the other things I will say about this, and you brought it up, I think, y'all tell me what you think about this. I think they are, so some of this, you could probably train AI almost to do social workers. Now, I would say not so much. I think maybe some of the processes they do, but not replace them completely, because you want people to go to the houses and look at the kids, the people, all of that. So I don't think this one's at risk of being replaced by AI. Maybe some processes that they do, and that means they'll probably earn less. However, I don't think it should be that you need a degree to do this. Um, but I think one of the things, and I heard this said too, somebody needs to mute. There's too much noise. Um, One of the reasons that I have heard that they did this is that they're trying to make a push for people to go more into STEM: science, technology, engineering, and math. Albeit accountant is on here, and that's math. Um, in the medical field, I think is part of the science, right? Um, but they're trying to make a push to get people out of these like humanities and into STEM. We keep importing doctors. Dante, can you mute?
Oh, my
Um,
fault.
they keep importing doctors, researchers, scientists, and where they getting them from? They're getting from China and India. They're getting them from Asia. Where are our Americans going into STEM, right? We do not have enough of us going into STEM. You want to know why NVIDIA is based out of California, was created in California, but it has a Jensen Wang, he's Asian. I don't want to say where I think he's from because I don't know. But I will say this. I have a guess, and I'm probably not far off. I don't want to be off. Why he's Asian and he's the CEO? Because where are the Americans to fill that role? Where were they? Lisa, I forget her last name. Lisa Su, maybe? AMD. Where were the Americans? AMD is an American company. I mean, I can go on and on, but I'm telling you, a lot of these, I mean, there's even a lady, I think she's Indian. She's Pepsi's CEO. A lot of us do not go into STEM. And when we talk finance, the only thing we can think is accountants. What about, one more time for the people in the back, what about hedge fund manager? That's finance. What about financial, somebody that helps somebody with retirement planning? What about somebody who helps people invest? Financial advisors and stuff like that. Accountants shouldn't be the only thing in money, or bank teller that we know about, or branch manager. What about all these other things? What about people who are they run the benefits package and the money? You have people that cost money, right? What about those money people? What about chief financial officer, a C-suite executive that sits next to the CEO for each quarterly earnings call? We got to start going in, and I think that's one of the things I've heard about. They've even said it on their broadcast on the news. We don't have enough people in STEM, and I think that's one of the things. Y'all tell me what you think. Y'all can unmute. Tell me what you think. He said, yeah, they want more people in trades, plumbers, electricians, HVACs, even mechanics and stuff. Yeah, I agree. Trades are making a comeback. Auto mechanics, they need more engineers, electrical, computer, chemical. Why can't I think? Mechanical, electrical, computer, chemical. There's more. I can't think, but that's enough, right there. All right, physician's assistant. I think we spoke on that with nurses. Physical therapist. Do y'all think this should be on the list? What we thinking? Bueller. Well, I would need to look up physical therapists and see what all they do to see if I agree with that. Go ahead. I see you
Supporting the body, so you need a certain level of medical knowledge, but I don't know if you necessarily need it to be. I personally do not believe that it to be a degree program. I think you should have to classes to understand. I believe you should have to stay current with your training as you should and everything else. But degree, no, I wouldn't. Maybe because it's medical and you're contorting the body.
I got a yes.
My only reason to say yes.
There was a yes in the chat. They have to learn different muscles in the body. Well, they also would have to learn the bones, the joints, the spine, the vertebrae, all of that. I do agree with this being on there. I do know more.
It doesn't need to. You don't need to take freaking a
PhD,
exotic dance as an elective.
No,
but
so you think more specialty school?
Yes, I think that would benefit much better.
Yeah,
less cost on college, and so some people are looking at this as a negative, actually be a positive, because in colleges can't charge outrageous prices to get admissions.
That's true.
Because they're not going to get the funding.
Actually, let me roll through that too. Now that we've seen the list enough. Hold on. My physical therapist knows more about what's going on with my body than the doctor who sent me to the therapist. Yeah, I do agree. They need to be very
I
educated,
know
but
who that is.
I don't think they should. Of course, you do. I don't think that should be. I don't think they need a PhD, is what I'm saying, to be a physical therapist.
Yeah.
I don't think they need a master's degree. I think you could send them to a private college or specialty school where they're just going to learn what they need, the different parts of the body, pressure points, joints, vertebrae, all of that to become a physical therapist and how to contort the body and different things. I don't think you should need to get a PhD or a master's degree. I don't think so. I don't really think you need an undergraduate. I think you should get a certification slash maybe an associate's, but that should be all you need to become a physical therapist. I don't think maybe a bachelor's, okay? But what they're looking at, from what I heard, and I don't know if anybody researched the why yet, but I will say from what I've heard, I found an article where they were talking about what they earn and how much compensation they're going to get. So how how likely they are to pay back the loan. And see, people love this loan forgiveness program because they can get taxpayers to pay back their student loans. Well, what if I, a taxpayer, don't want to pay back your loans? I don't want my taxes to go to pay back your loans because maybe I didn't go to college, but I did, but I didn't finish college and I paid back my own stuff. And you know how I did it? I utilized the house I bought 7 years prior and pulled out some of the equity and I wiped out my student loans. So I use my own money to do it. Why can't you? You know what I mean? So there's different ways to look at it. Loan forgiveness. I mean, I think if they're public servants or something like that, sure, maybe that would sweeten the pot for people to become public servants. I agree with that. But just everybody, loan forgiveness or the average person, no, man. Know what you're borrowing when you borrow it. I tell you what, you go buy that brand new Mercedes, there ain't no loan forgiveness for that. You know what it is? There's a tow truck to come hook it up and wheel it on off if you don't pay. Get 3 months behind. It happened to me before. I didn't have a Mercedes. I had a 2006 Nissan Sentra, but it happened to me before. What are you going to say? Go ahead. You unmuted. I figured you had something to say.
Oh shoot, I didn't realize it was unmuted still. Um, yeah, a lot of people are blaming America or public schools, and I believe that this may be, and I can't confirm or deny it here. This is just my personal speculation. This may be punishment for the education system, perhaps not cooperating in previous terms, what they've seen, and they're complaining about what they're teaching in education. So if you think about it, a lot of America is indoctrinating the kids to think one way or the other between K through 12 and college, and that it's charging them up politically in one way or the other. And so this may be a strike back against those institutions if we're getting rid of K through 12 certain funding for those type of schooling to stop certain people from becoming educators.
Yeah, so
So
we know in 2025 in the West, we teach a lot of woke topics. Um, you know what? I did see a list. Can y'all search up real quick the complete list of this? Because somebody mentioned African American studies, but I don't see that on that list. And actually, we have a cousin that has a degree in that and got it from New Paltz, upstate New York. And I always wondered, what do you do with that? But it was a degree. And this was, what did she graduate in 05? 04, 05? So, I mean, it's a degree and she earned it. And so, but by now, 20 years later, you would have already been so far up the chain and in your sector that you wouldn't care about like little stuff like this. You should be that far along in your sector. But if you look right here, the DOE changes limits on student loans, that could lead to shortages in some professions, as those degrees get harder to afford. Yeah, and nursing is a big one, right? But here's the thing. They have nursing schools. Can somebody look up, are nursing schools the same as like a regular college? I don't think so, because it says nursing schools, and I think they only take in nurses. I don't think they go through a 4-year degree program. I don't think they do. And they get on the job training. So they're already ready to go when they come out of nursing school. So I don't know, but it says nursing. It doesn't say what level. It doesn't say physician's assistant. What's the NP? Nurse practitioner, RN, registered nurse. I think there's a couple more, but it doesn't say which one. So we have to read this. So the proposed changes to the U.S. Department of Education's regulation on how graduate degrees are classified can be found here. If you're inclined to read them, the thing people are concerned with is about the split between professional degrees and regular graduate degrees. The OBBA capped federal subsidized loans for both groups, but at different levels. There are the proposed regulatory rulings on how these changes will be implemented. So let's see, beginning July of 2026, OBBA, I probably should have done all of this first, but I went straight to the list. Caps annual loans for new borrowers at $20,500 for graduate students, $100,000 for aggregate limit, and $50,000 for professional students, $200,000 aggregate limit. A term the committee defined consistent with existing regulatory text. Previously, graduate students could borrow up to the cost of attendance, which led institutions to offer expensive graduate programs with a negative return on investment. So I think you're right? I think part of it, if you can read between the lines, is punching back against the college. What did I call it earlier? Industry. There's a whole industry around college where, so a master's program gets to it. You only take the classes that you need. But most of these, 80%, and I'm being generous here, most of these degree programs have half of it, a quarter of it, have nothing to do with the degree itself. In English, you could go straight to it. You don't need the history of dance. You don't need LGBTQ history. And that's actual classes in college. But what does that have to do with an English major? What does that have to do with engineering, right? It has nothing, neither one of those have anything to do with it. What's another one? These vocational classes, none of that stuff. Look, part of it is there is a whole industry behind college. You only need 60 credits that deal with your subject, but you have to take a whole other 60, and they all cost money. They all have books associated with them. You're still utilizing room and board for those of us that are on campus, right? So think about that, right? There's a whole industry behind college. And should there be? And so I think he's right. I think some of this is fighting back against that. Stop making college so expensive by giving us a lot of courses we don't need. And it talked about return on investment with expensive graduate programs, right? Why is your graduate program so expensive? And social work, master's degree, is only going to raise my salary $2,000. That has nothing to, that is not a good return on investment. Folks, you better invest in the stock market. That'd be a better return on investment. So it says it's not all about student loans and not all about the prestige or pay for the degree. People who want to attend an expensive graduate school will either pay cash out of pocket or borrow from private lenders. Schools will be forced to lower tuition to attract students. That's the hope. See? So he's right. If we'd have just read the article in the first place, they're hoping that schools will lower their tuition. The problem is, if they already have said we're going to earn $30,000 a year for each student, and we can take in 1,000 new students per year, they've already accounted for that money and they already have spent that money. So lowering it, I don't know. They're probably going to have to lower their number of admissions, make something shake. And look, that's why you need money, man. Money, people who are skilled with money, even in universities. You don't think about it, but there's somebody handling the money for tuition. There's somebody handling the money for books. There's somebody handling the money for the all the revenue for the college. Does this affect employment status of people with these degrees? Now, we spoke about this. Whether you can consider it salaried, exempt, or paid hourly, or eligible for overtime has no relationship to what the DOE is talking about. Exempt status is determined by two factors: minimum salary of $684 per week federally, but much higher in certain states, and job duties. So we talked about that. What your salary can be in certain states. I talked about New York, which is higher. I live in a high cost state in California. The deciding factor for salary exemption is the job duties, and that remains consistent under the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA. It looks at how independent people are and if they manage people, make decisions on their own, and do creative work. The rules do look at degrees, but not in a way that the DOE changes would affect. All right. So here are some of the examples. The employee must be compensated on a salary or fee basis at rates not less than the standard level of whatever that is. And look, they have a link to it, so you can go to it if you want. The employee's primary duty must be the performance of work requiring advanced knowledge. Bam, there's where I think social work gets the wiggity whack. That's where they get the gavel bang, because you don't need advanced knowledge to work in social work. You can argue with me if you want, but I'm talking about 80% of it. I'm not talking about maybe the healthcare social work. I'm talking about the bulk of social work. 80% of it, you don't need it. You can argue it because you went to college and it's your career field or your best friend or your family member. I just don't think it needs that. Look at air traffic control. Air traffic control is a specialty, right? You can go to school and get an associate's in it, but I'm going to tell you right now, air traffic control, there's a 2-year air traffic control school in the FAA in OKC, Oklahoma City. You go there, you go to the school, you do all the training you need. You learn about weather, you learn about nav age, you learn about airspace and time, you learn about airport design, sequence and separation. You learn about a lot of stuff, right? Air traffic control is very specific, and they don't have time for the history of dance. They don't have time for woke topics. They don't have time for other vocational stuff. Your vocation is going to be your career field. That's it. That's all we care about, right? And so when you look at it, it'd be dangerous to feed them other stuff. When you're in that plane, you want them to know air traffic control. You don't care if they know the history of dance. I don't know why I keep saying that. It's lack of a better example, I guess. But no degree required, but there is an associate's degree for it. Let's see. So we said the knowledge part defined as work with predominantly intellectual and character, and which includes work requiring consistent exercise of discretion and judgment. So I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of these careers have if this, then that. You don't have to exercise discretion and judgment. It's already laid out for you. It's almost an algorithm, pretty much. The advanced knowledge must be in a career of science or learning. What did I say? STEM. They're talking about that. And it says or learning. That's why I don't agree with educators. Educators should be on there. The advanced knowledge must be customarily acquired by a prolonged course of specialized intellectual instruction. The amount of money available for federal student loans doesn't play in its definition. All right, so listen. What they're saying is that if you are on the no longer a profession list, the amount of student loans you're going to be able to take out on an annual basis is going to be definitively lower. It's going to be a lot lower than professions, right? So that may mean if you want, and this is where you start talking to your middle schoolers. Don't wait until they get into high school, but if you got high schoolers, let's talk to them now. You need to talk to them about what level degree you need to operate in this, the amount of money in student loans that they would have to take out, the amount of money in student loans now that they be able to take out, how much they have to foot on their own, and if they can't do it, if it doesn't align, and how much compensation they get on average, right? As a beginner, and then do the average, right? And then do the high, because they need to know, right? Upward mobility in salary and job position, right? But then you also have to think about it. If those things don't align, okay, is your student an athlete? Can they get a full ride scholarship to go play soccer at a school, but they are going for social work? Well, if you got a full ride, who cares? Academic scholarship. Let's start applying for Pell Grant, financial aid. Now you break out all these subsidized, all these programs that are out there, and then also get your kid involved, volunteering and stuff. Parent your children. Parent your children. Part of parenting is knowledge that you give them. Don't leave them out there on their own. Most people are saying, I can't wait till my son, I can't wait till my daughter turns 18 so they can get out of the house and I can be an empty nester. Well, you better be teaching them everything that they need to know. They better be able to function like at least a 24-year-old on average at 18, at least a 30-year-old. If they can't do that, then you didn't do your job as a parent. Because if you put them out there at 18, they're going to make the same mistakes that you made, the average 18-year-old makes. And then you're going to look at them and be like, what's wrong with you? Well, you threw me to the wolves. You made me get out. I wasn't ready to go to college and live on campus. I could have went to college and commuted from home. You never taught me about money and saving and investing. You never taught me about buying a used car. You told me you weren't going to help me co-sign a loan, so they gave me a better interest rate on the new car. So I bought the new car. If you want your kid doing this when they're already in a rut, then kick them out at 18. Or don't teach them what they need to know. A lot of this is, I'm telling you, a lot of this, you need to do the legwork ahead of time. If you can only take out $20,000 in student loans per year for social work, and he just put in the chat that $78,000 per year, y'all gonna have to excuse me, I am kind of sick. $78,000 per year is needed. They're out of pocket almost 60 grand a year. Who's paying for that? And look, here's the thing. Look at my face when we say this, all right? This is not hate towards anybody who wants loan forgiveness. This is not hate. We got to stop doing that. We have to be able to have civil discourse and be able to disagree amicably. If you're in social work and I said I don't agree, you could tell me why you do agree. I might actually agree with you. I may not know everything that social work takes. However, we may not see eye to eye. And if we walk away and don't see eye to eye, it doesn't mean I hate you. And you don't have to hate me. Weird. That's how it used to be. In the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, when we talked about stuff, we agreed to disagree. You don't have to hate people. You don't have to throw hate comments in. You don't have to be thugging and all of that stupid stuff, right? Disagree amicably with somebody. What does it cost you to say, yeah, I don't agree, bro, but you know what? Have a great day. I don't agree with you, so blankety blank, blank, blank. Too many feelings get involved with this, right? Look, If you took out all these student loans and now you're not earning the salary you need to earn, and they're saying loan forgiveness and Democrats want it and Republicans don't, well, don't just break it into red and blue. I'm purple. I'm both. I'm purple because I love the color green. Let me tell you something. I like the color green. The love of money is the root of all evil. Let me erase that. First response is usually the right one, but let me backtrack on that one. I don't want the root of all evil now. But get what I'm saying, right? If you're in that situation, I'm just telling you I don't want to pay for your student loans. And if they're going to make taxpayers pay for it, I didn't take those student loans out. I understand the program might exist and you want to get into it because you want somebody to pay your loans. Who wouldn't? I would have loved that when I was going through. But guess what? I paid my student loans myself off an investment I made 7 years prior. I don't want to pay for your student loans. And I don't want to pay for your sons, your daughters, your niece, your nephew. They should know how much they're borrowing before they borrow it, and you should be teaching them. I don't want to pay for their stuff. And when my kids start working, my nephews and nieces, I don't want them paying for anybody's student loans. You borrowed the money, you pay it back. You borrowed money to pay for a car, you're paying on it. You borrowed money to pay for your house, you're paying it. Taxpayers don't get involved with paying that. You pay your property taxes or the county takes your house back. That's got nothing to do with me. Why would student loans be any different? See, when you use that logic like that, crickets. And all that will come out next is, what is it? The sign language, the shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. That's all that will come out. Ad hominem attacks. Well, I don't like your head shape. When you chew, you see that muscle on the side of your head moving too much. Your forehead too big. Your hairline going back too far. Your teeth ain't straight. Your teeth are yellow. Get that cheese off your teeth. Your shoulders ain't that big. Your head too small for your body. You hear all of that stuff because now they can no longer substantiate their claim. All right, chat, what do we got? Chat, we can open the mic if y'all got anything to say on this. Y'all can go ahead. Lay into it. If not, I'm just going to read what y'all are putting. The amount of years that nurses need in order to become certain. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick. So, not too long ago, I did a course over at a technical high school, and they teach you about different trade programs. So I went into plumbing and HVAC, and they have nursing there, like your basic registered nursing programs that get you into a nursing home and let you work with older patients and take care of them and such. And I don't know too much about that course. However, my course was free. They had fundings and things like that. So I didn't have to pay a single thing out to take that course. The only thing I had to do was show a pay stub that showed me working at a job for about a month using the skills that I learned from said program, such as fixing leaks and things like that. So I just had to apply those things, and then my schooling was paid for. Nothing like going to a school for 2 years, a huge loan, and having to pay back 20 grand.
Yeah. And see, so how much did your course cost to become a plumber?
So that course was free.
Weird how that works. You know what else is free? Job Corps. And you know what? How many years you have eligibility for Job Corps? 8. From 16 to 24 years old. And you know what you learn there? You can learn to be an accountant. Most people didn't know that. You can learn welding. You can learn construction. You can learn nursing in Job Corps. So weird. We keep telling people to run to college. College is one of several hard skills. Watch this. And I won't even talk about Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg. Well, I guess I will. Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard. So did Mark Zuckerberg. at a recent conference, the Jensen Wang, or Hong, I think is how you say his name, Jensen. We'll just say that. NVIDIA CEO. He looked at Mark Zuckerberg and said, hey, if I knew then what I know now, I would have dropped out of college like you. It's unnecessary. Palantir CEO Alex Karp is always talking about how college is unnecessary. And I will tell you this, Curtis mentioned the whole woke thing. Alex Karp on the Palantir call, I covered it last week. If you haven't seen it, great coverage of Palantir as a company. When that CEO gets up there and talks, he said, I am proud to say our company has none of that woke stuff. Anti-woke company or something like that, he said. Something like that. He doesn't play that stuff, but he also put his money where his mouth is. He hired 16 students or graduate students, and I say graduate right out of high school, so 18, 19, 17 years old, depending on when your birthday is, right? And about 16 of them, put them through a 12-week, internship. And at the end of it, the top 4, he hired them straight on into Palantir. And do you think that those other 12 that didn't get hired are not in some kind of program within Palantir, maybe another internship extended, or they have now a resume to apply to Palantir? Do you think they're just going to go away? No, they probably didn't just let them go. They probably said, hey, we'll extend your internship or put you in another one. And when we do more hirings, we'll put you guys in there too. I think Palantir is really trying to make a statement. And I think a lot of people are punching back against the college industry. They hate that all that money is being made off of these innocent young adults who don't know no good. They don't know any better, right? And here's something else I want to cover. Do y'all see the bottom of the screen where it says, are these changes sexist? Here we go. Because they talked about, we've seen this playbook before. When a woman enters a profession in significant numbers, that profession gets devalued, deprofessionalized, and defunded. What's different now is the speed and brazenness. This isn't about protecting taxpayers or students. It's about ensuring a woman's pathway to economic independence remain as narrow and expensive as possible. Now, okay, I think the devil's in the details with what she's saying. That's Mighty Girl, her opinion, right? She says it's not about protecting taxpayers. Well, that's what they said, right? And they're probably talking about loan forgiveness as well. As a taxpayer, I could tell you right now, I don't want to pay back your student loans. And I guarantee you a lot of these professions that they put on here is probably ones that are trying to apply for loan forgiveness. Well, who wants to have to pay back student loans from somebody if they didn't borrow the money? I don't. That's what I keep saying. Like, I think that's what people need to understand. Then she said when women enter a profession in significant numbers, just think about what she just said. Now, everything in the world, most things work off of supply and demand. That's how the value, she talked about it getting devalued. Let's just stop right there. Devalued, significant numbers. If there's only $1 million in circulation and you print 4 million more, you just took the value of the $1 million down 80%. Do you understand that? You just you printed a significant more money and put it into circulation. So come on back, M. You just put all that extra money in circulation. Are you serious? Of course it got devalued. If there were 2 million 1965 or 1970 Chevy Novas still on the street, they'd be worth $2,000. But because there may be less than 2,000 of them, they could go for $100,000. Do we not understand supply and demand? She is trying to make this about women. She's trying to make this about women. But I tell you one thing that is not saturated or oversaturated, because she's saying in significant numbers. What she's not saying is oversaturating the market with these people, right? STEM's not oversaturated. So you know what's not happening to STEM? Science, technology, engineering, and math? They're not getting devalued, deprofessionalized, or defunded. Well, women don't go into those. And whose fault is that? If you have equal rights, you have equal choice. You can go into STEM. I guess we should start liking math. We should start liking science. We should start liking all that stuff and go into that. It is not being any one of the three. I'll tell you something else. Trades. You're not devaluing plumbers. You're not devaluing electricians, carpenters, demolition, any sect of construction. And you linemen, right, going up on the poles. Well, you can say, well, those are men run industries, but that's a choice. Again, that's a choice. Look, every man does not want to do heavy lifting. I don't. I'm an air traffic controller. You know the extent of my job? Or this ain't the extent, but the physical labor. I push a button, hold it down. Delta 8952, turn left, heading 270, climb and maintain flight level 300, and let the button go. That's as physical as my job gets. That's it. It's mental. But guess what? It's not oversaturated, devalued, deprofessionalized, defunded. It's not. And so I think the devil's in the details of what she's saying. What she has to understand is that her opinion doesn't make it fact. I think this is more feeling because she sounds like she could be one of those feminists who may be pro-woman or anti-men or a conspiracy theorist about the government being against women. I just broke down what she said, right? And so if you think about that, I think they said pathway to women's economic independence remains as narrow and expensive as possible. Listen, pick different fields. I don't know what else to tell you. I can only go by the list they gave me. If they said social workers are now not seen as a profession, then look, if you're in social work, either move to a different sector. Yeah, you spend all that money on education. Look for different qualifications or something within social work. Make yourself more valuable within social work, or move to something else. You have not just degrees, you have credentials, certifications, you have licenses in trades. Look, CDLs, commercial driver's license, are not being oversaturated because who wants to sit and drive a truck all day? I've seen ladies doing this in the past year. I've seen quite a few ladies driving big rigs on the road. My mother was one that had a CDL. Both our parents had CDLs. But it's not oversaturated, so it's not being devalued. It's not being deprofessionalized and none of that. But just because it's a male-dominated field does not mean they're attacking women. What she's saying can't be proven. It's speculation. What I'm saying can be proven. Anything works off supply and demand. The more ethanol, the more gasoline, the more diesel there is available, the lower the cost. If there's only a little bit out there, then the higher the cost. Supply and demand. Remember we had an egg shortage earlier this year or late last year? What happened to the price of eggs? Remember in 2020, during COVID, the tissue apocalypse? There wasn't a lot of it. What happened to the price of tissue? And I'm talking paper towel, toilet paper, tissues, which is actually this. This is not called a Kleenex. That's the brand. This is called a tissue, right? So think about that. So that is one of the arguments out there. Again, if anybody wants to chime in, just go ahead and unmute and we'll talk about it. But this isn't a man versus woman conversation, but that is on this article that I pulled. So let's read a little further. If anybody wants to say something, just let me know. Architects are overwhelmingly male, with women making up about 17%. So now let's look at that. Go back to what she just said, right? She said when women enter a profession in significant numbers, 17% of something is not a significant number. Now, even if you're talking about brain function, lung function, heart function, if you still have 83% of those working, I think you can still live. Let's not, I mean, you wouldn't want to be in that situation. But if it was the other way around, 83% was cut and 17% of your heart, brain, or lungs were working, you'd be in dire straits. You're basically dead. You're about to be gone, right? So that's not a significant number. So she's not backing up what her claim is with fact, right? And that's what we want to deal with here is fact. Initially, the non-professional distinction arose from the minimum degree requirement for the job. Physicians had to have a graduate degree, as did lawyers, JDs, right? Nurses did not, right? So they're saying initially nurses didn't even need it. So if they take it away, they're just going back to what it was. But again, I agree. And most of us here, I think no one here said they didn't agree that nurses should not be on that list. Things have changed, of course, and many graduate nursing degrees exist, but did not exist when the National Center for Education Statistics and the Department of Education made up the professional/non-professional degree status list. Let me see if they have a link to the list. First, professional degree. A degree that signifies both completion of academic requirements for beginning practice in a given profession and a level of professional skill beyond normally required for a bachelor's degree. This degree is usually based on a program requiring at least 2 academic years of work prior to the entrance in a total of at least 6 academic years to work to complete the degree program, including both prior required college work and professional program itself. Okay, all right. When you put it like that, I don't think nurses need 6 years. I don't know. When you all right, look, chat, given all of this, having said this, just this, do you think nurses should have to be on that list now? Because me personally, they have nursing schools and they do those in 2-3 years? I don't think they need a master's. 2 years beyond the bachelor's degree, it says. Why would nurses need that? Go ahead.
So it depends on the type of nurse that they're trying to become. So there's all different types of nursing fields to go into within the nursing umbrella. And so, like I was saying earlier with the trades,
Yeah.
like a registered nurse that just deals with nursing homes, I think the program is typically anywhere from like a month to 2 months or something like that. Sometimes 3. But then when you get into more in-depth things, that's when you're gonna need that 4-year degree, 2-year degree.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else? When you talk about, well, let's say you said 2-year degree or 4-year degree. This says for professional degrees, they need 2 years beyond the bachelor's. So they're saying masters. You get what I'm saying? So do you think they should just explicitly master's degrees? Do you think they should be on the professional degree list?
I don't think. Is anyone talking right now?
No.
I don't think it necessarily needs a degree list, but it does need technical professional trainings.
Agreed.
That much is valid. You need some type of certification. You need to show that, yes, you've done the work. And I think you could easily convert from a college necessary to a technical school. I think most professions could be technical schools, unless you're doing something that's actual academics like math like
STEM.
mathematician, you shouldn't need college.
So STEM.
Right. Well, yeah.
Well, a
But even
mathematician,
then,
science, technology,
you can
engineering, and
get
math.
technical
That's STEM.
you could get technical training for some of those, like engineering, and then do the rest on the job. Not everything requires college. I think it was set up and it's trying to be pushed as necessary now, but it's just not.
I agree with you. And that's actually what I was going to say. I'm glad somebody else said it first, though, because personally, I think a lot of nursing, half of nursing, okay, is classroom, right? You do need to learn about the 206 bones in the body, what they make, how they function, and what if they work in tandem with other bones, right? Try to flex your pinky without pulling down your ring finger. And for you weirdos that are double jointed and can do that, most people can't. Look, I have web between my fingers, all right? I got duck hands. Duck feet for hands. Just get what I'm saying, right? And then I got flat feet, so I have duck feet for real. But anyway, get what I'm saying. When you think about it like that, yeah, there's an aspect of classroom for nursing, but it shouldn't be 6 years. 6 years. A lot of I think half of it's classroom, half of it's internship, on the job training. Just what you just said. So exactly what you just said. A lot of these degree programs can be 2 years of classroom and 2 years of internship / on the job training. Kind of how they did wood shop in high school, right? You go to wood shop every day and you learn how to use a circular saw. You learn how to whittle. You learn how to use all these things and drill screws, and you build things, right? You're learning a trade in high school. You're learning carpentry, right? That's on the job training. Do you need the history of screws and nails? The history of trees? No. Get in there. Here's this piece of lumber. Different lumber have different softness or hardnesses. And so if you want a more sturdy table, you use oak. If you want a softer table, you use pine. Like, you don't need to take 6 years of the history of all this stupid stuff for carpentry. That's a trade, though. They're not talking about trades here. They're only dealing with college professions, right? Or lack thereof. So and I think a lot of what I've seen on social media, I can tell 98% of them, 98% of them, they haven't read this. If this is what a professional degree is defined as, none of your thoughts, feelings, concerns even matter. That's the criteria. If that have been the criteria, then some of these shouldn't have been on the list in the first place. They put them on the list and they shouldn't have been there. If the definition never changed, they shouldn't have been on the list in the first place. It's not coming for your career field. It's not coming after men, coming after women. It's not hating Democrats or hating Republicans. This has nothing to do with it. It doesn't fit the criteria. And the only thing to do is to either look at that definition and vote to change it, or you need to do something different. If you are now here's the people who are the worst affected by this. The folks in the middle of college, because this takes effect July of 2026. So they might actually make it take effect now for admissions to their colleges this year. And remember, the admission cutoff, you can get admission letters right now. The admission cutoff is April 15th for college, same day as tax cutoff. But most people, I guarantee you, never looked at this. They just started talking about what they feel. Now let's look, these went on the list first as professional degrees. All right, chime in, chat. Dentistry, medicine, optometry, osteopathic medicine, also medicine, pharmacy, podiatry medicine, veterinarian medicine, chiropractic, law, theological professions. So most of this is medicine. I agree with this. But these are medicine from the doctor's standpoint. not from a help doctor's helper standpoint. And people can, well, which one is more valuable, the helper or the doctor? Obviously the doctor, right? Because back in the day, they didn't have nurses. They had the doctor, and they didn't have helpers. They did it themselves, right? Then they created the helper, who had to be trained in, specialized in drawing blood. So phlebotomy, in bone resetting and stuff like that, right? The helper came after the profession. So if you think about it, I would agree with that list. JD, the law degree, is the doctorate of law. That's all you can get. That's the highest you can get. All of these I agree with. Anybody in the chat disagree with these? Again, we can give opinion and thoughts and feelings, but listen, if this was the criteria and these are the jobs that went on there first, I don't see anything wrong with these. All right. Nobody's saying anything. So DOE is relying on an older list that predates many of today's advanced nursing degrees and allied health programs. Professions have substantially changed since 1999. Now, that I agree with too. So I agree with them taking a look, scrubbing the list and taking a look on if they fit that criteria and should they be in that criteria. I think that matters too. Do you need this in order to? And if you remember, if you weren't here, they did say up top, they're doing this in an effort for colleges to lower the admission cost and the costs surrounding some of these degrees that they don't need $70,000 a year to go to school for. They may only need 20 to stop adding all these extra criteria for this. Make it an associate's program, because that might be all you need for it. If you want to get a degree in social work, great. Associates. I don't think social work needs one. You can do social work with straight up on the job training. Give them some stuff to study, or send them to maybe you need some classroom. Send them home with some homework. You want the job? Come back knowing this stuff. On the job training. Okay, so people are displeased with the Department of Education because of this. But look, we've done a whole 2 hours on just this topic. So listen, folks, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to stop the recording right here because this is going to be way too long for YouTube. But anybody can go open mic if they want to talk about it, if they have closing thoughts and stuff like that.